In the bottom of the ADX in Florence, Colorado, which is known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, there's something that I've never seen anyone talk about. I haven't seen it in the news before. I haven't heard a congressman talk about it or a senator or even any correctional officer talk about it outside the facility. In the bottom of the ADX is a gymnasium. And in the gymnasium, there are dog kennels. Not for German Shepherds or Doberman Pinschers, but dog kennels for people with little chains in there and wrist shackles. This is Jack from Fed Joints to Beer Joints, and I'm talking about things I saw live, you might say, right there, because I was the clerk at the ADX in Florence, Colorado. I was assigned to that job as an inmate at the camp down the road on the same facility. In Florence, Colorado, there's a camp, there's a medium facility, there's a maximum, and of course, there's the ADX. And the ADX is the underground facility, which is famous for all the inmates that are stashed there away from the rest of humanity. It's a place I go where I think people were sent to have their status as human beings vacated. Probably deserved it, most of them. Wish it had been done maybe beforehand. They would have done some of the things they did. A lot of gang leaders, terrorists, the Unabomber, the Boston bomber. Not going to sit here and drop names all day. We dealt with all of them. I dealt with each of these people on a regular basis, daily, as part of my job. Not face to face, but in writing. They would send a request to me and my partner of things for library materials and legal materials to study, or maybe just a book, requests from commissary, and responses to games they played. They may have been dog kennels in the basement for humans, but there was also bingo in the ADX. Yes, the inmates played bingo. More about that later. My first experience with the ADX, and I'm going to go through this step by step. I'm going to talk about my dealings one-on-one with the terrorists, the guys who planted the World Trade Center bombing, an FBI agent who is now deceased, who was a Russian spy his penmanship and spelling was like a little kid. It was so bad. Terry Nichols, the Oklahoma City bomber, who was a prick. And maybe, I guess I don't want to say my favorite, but the one I had the tightest one-on-one relationship would have been the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, now deceased. At the time I was there, Ted was flourishing. And I'll explain more about that later. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying about these people I talk about. I'm going to tell you some things I think are funny, some things that you might think are funny, some things that might be bizarre. Doesn't mean I'm making light of what they did. That's not my intention at all. Most of them, probably nearly all of them, probably deserve to be where they were in that facility. I deserve to be in prison. I committed a crime. But these guys were at a level, I was not even close to. I was a cop at one time, way before I got in trouble. And I've seen a little bit of both sides of the law. And some of these guys were pretty difficult to believe that they were really human. But what we're going to talk about in this series is all the things that really go on inside the ADX. All the things that the correctional officers do that you might find kind of curious. You might find it kind of weird how they even treat each other. You got some evil people in there, not just the ones who are locked up, the ones who are doing the locking up. And you got some strange characters that are running that place. You got COs that don't like each other, and sometimes they got physical. We'll talk about that. But talk about the inmates and the way they really lived in a place where you're actually about 4 steps in one direction and 3 steps the other direction is their entire world, and how they handled it. We'll talk about them playing bingo and other games that we set up for them. But first, let's go back to my first day at the ADX. I'm down at the camp, and I'm a camp clerk. And if you know anything about camps, maybe you don't. I'll tell you about camps in the federal system. I experienced at 2 camps. And let me tell you, camps are wide open. Everything out in the world is at a camp. It's just you have to sneak it in. Not like out here. If you want to go down to a liquor store and get yourself a jug of booze, you get it. At the camp, you order it from outside, and someone brings it in, and they run in at night in bags. That's how it works. You can get cigarettes, you can get booze, you can get drugs if you want them, you can get phones, lots of phones. Hell, you can get girls to come in. All these things actually exist at these camps. They do. I'm not telling any secrets on anybody. It's the reality of it. Anyone's been to a camp has seen it. It's wide open. So I'm at this camp as a clerk. I'm outside running every day, lifting weights, jogging, sun shining, looking at the Rocky Mountains. And one day they come to me and say, we need you and your partner to go to the ADX and be clerks over there. And I said, do I have to? And they go, yeah, you pretty much have to. You guys did a good job here. We want you to go over there and do the same thing. I didn't want to go inside. I didn't know anything about the ADX inside, other than the stuff you hear about it, but I never heard anything good about the ADX. And I'm outside sitting there. Why would I want to go inside for 8 hours a day? Well, they sent us. First day at the ADX, I realized we're not at the camp anymore. As they say, well, Toto, I guess we're not in Kansas anymore, because you go up to the door, the pat down, the search. They may want to strip search you, the metal detectors, the walking down the tunnels. And as you're walking down these tunnels, the depression and it's hard to explain what you feel walking in there first time. It just it oozes out of the place. It's horrific. And they walked us down, 2 COs, to a little office area, and they put us inside. They said, clean this up and organize it. And there was shit strung every place in there. It was terrible. So we organized this whole thing. We have no idea what our job is at the ADX at that time, other than organize these things. So we do. And our job was similar to that at the camp. But what we didn't realize was the people we're dealing with, you can deal with some guys they're pretty damn famous in there. And they have these needs and things that the people at camp. As we started going through all the requests, and we started looking at the names on these requests, and they send in a piece of paper, has the inmate's name on it, and then the inmate's number. My inmate's number was 107822029. Funny how you remember that. Been out for a while. I'll probably never forget that number. And inmates send requests for things. They want library materials, legal materials, just maybe a book to read. Their section in the ADX, whether you're in section A, B, if you're in C or F, every section has its own library section, and they can only get books from that specific section. We'll talk about why those are divided up later on. Anyway, so we have all these things and we start sending them out. We didn't realize that these guys actually would be playing games as well. Every week we would send out games like little word spell games. When NASCAR was going on, they got to pick the winners for NASCAR if they won. Just like if they won the trivial thing or bingo, which I'll explain later, they get prizes. Yeah, they got prizes in the ADX, but you didn't know that. Candy bars and things like that. And so we'd send those down to the unit, and the COs would take them down there. And you think about it, you're playing games with people like Terry Nichols, who blew up the building in Oklahoma City and killed those people, and then testified against his friend. Harold Nicholson, who was also a spy, people like that. And you think, here they are playing these little kid games. You're sending stuff down to them. But that's how it is. The ADX is not just this prison with extra locks on it. This is really a strange area, and I think it impacts everyone who's there, not just us, for going there. I felt different after working there. I was so anxious to get out of that place every afternoon. You almost run out of the place once they open that final door up. You just wanted to sprint out of there. You really wanted very little to do with it. I want to point out something while we were there in our work detail, and I think maybe you realize it yourself. Have you ever thought about this? When you're talking to somebody, you have a conversation, have you ever felt like you could pour yourself out more if you wrote it down, even if you wrote a note to yourself, or if you write a letter? If you ever wanted to say something sincere to another person, you put it in writing. Have you ever done that? A lot of people feel that way. So that's what we were getting from all of these inmates. And you started to realize the different levels of inmates. Because when a man writes something to you, and I'm saying men, not being sexist, because that's all there was in there, you start to see the real person come out. Examples. You find out who are the most courteous people in the ADX. You'll be surprised. We'll talk about that. But the most courteous people and who wished you well and put blessings upon you were the terrorists. Yeah, strange, isn't it? But they did. They always said blessings to you and your family. And you think these people are saying blessings to you, and then if you're in the wrong building, they would try and blow you up? I don't know. Ted Kaczynski, who I grew to have not a personal relationship, but a kind of an understanding, would write little notes to you about requests, and then one day you would get a multi-page diatribe where he wanted something, and you had to try and decipher it. It was an odd thing at best. And then you realize there's people in there with the mentality of a 3-year-old. We had people in there who really had no idea what the hell was going on, you know? And we'll discuss those guys in detail as well, too. And you had some artists in there. You had guys who can paint in that place, and they would actually send out to their family their artworks. They were able to buy, through commissary, different art products, paintings, and that kind of stuff. And some were allowed to paint. Then they would send them to their family. And before they would go out, we'd have to package. We'd have to call the security detail to come in and examine these paintings to make sure they weren't giving out secrets, I guess, or commands to their gangs out in the world. And that got really weird. That's some weird shit. We pulled some stuff on these guys, put some paintings that made them look a little stupid in their examination. We'll talk about another story. But this series is going to be just about eyewitness stuff. That's all it is, folks. You can take from it what you want to. You can say, boy, this is an interesting place to look at, or what the hell. Don't try to make these people sound human, because they're not. And maybe they're not. I don't know. But the ADX in Florence, Colorado really is the Alcatraz of the Rockies. That once you walk in that place, you'll never forget it when you walk in and walk out. The last person that was checked in there before I left was the Boston bomber. And when they came in, and you can see the photograph they put in this file for these people, because they've all got these pictures of them there. You look at this guy, and he looked like he's 10 years old. You wonder, what is this guy doing here? But when you look at what they did, then you understand why they're there. Looks could be deceiving, especially in the ADX. This is Jack from Fed Joints to Beer Joints. Stay tuned to this back every week for the ADX. Next week, get right into it. The Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, and me. We'll see you then.